Something broke a long time ago. You don't have a name for it, but you feel it every day. In the way you love people, clinging or disappearing. In the way you react, too much or not at all. In the way you protect yourself before anyone even gets close enough to hurt you. You've been carrying something you were never supposed to carry alone. Today, you find out what it is. Every one of us has an emotional wound, a pattern of pain that formed early, in the moments when we were too young to understand what was happening to us and too small to protect ourselves from it. There are 6 core wounds. As you listen to each one will land differently. Not because it describes your whole life, but because something in it will feel uncomfortably familiar. That's your wound. You are terrified of being left, not just in romantic relationships, in friendships, in families, in any connection that matters to you. You check in more than you need to. You read into silences. You make yourself useful, because if you're needed, maybe they'll stay. And when someone pulls away, even slightly, something in you goes into emergency mode. Not because you're needy, because someone left once. And your nervous system decided, if you stay alert, if you hold on tight enough, if you make yourself impossible to leave, it won't happen again. The wound of abandonment says, people I love will always leave me eventually. And so you spend your life either holding on so tightly you push people away, or leaving first, so you never have to feel it again. You believe, somewhere deep, that you are fundamentally wrong. Not what you did, not what you said. You. You shrink before anyone asks you to. You apologize for existing. You leave relationships before the other person has a chance to leave you, because you already know they will. You don't apply for things you want. You don't say what you think. You hold yourself back from the life you could be living, because a part of you is convinced you don't deserve it. The wound of rejection says, I am not enough. I was never enough. And so you spend your life trying to earn your place, in rooms you have every right to be in, never quite believing you belong. You are ashamed of your own needs. When you want something, you immediately feel embarrassed about wanting it. When you're struggling, you hide it, handle it, make sure nobody sees. Because somewhere along the way, your needs were called too much. Your emotions were called dramatic. Your pain was called weakness. And so you adapted. You became the one who gives, who helps, who never asks. Not because you don't have needs, but because having them feels like something to be ashamed of. The wound of humiliation says, my needs make me a burden. And so you spend your life taking care of everyone else, while quietly disappearing into the space between what you give and what you never let yourself receive. You don't fully trust anyone, not because you're cynical, because you're careful, because someone you trusted, someone who was supposed to be safe, wasn't. And your nervous system took note. Now you keep part of yourself permanently held back. You watch for signs. You prepare for disappointment. You control what you can because the alternative, letting go, trusting fully, being vulnerable, feels like standing on the edge of something you've already fallen off before. The wound of betrayal says, if I trust, I will be hurt. And so you spend your life in relationships that are almost close, but never quite, because the last inch is the one you can't afford to give. You hold yourself to a standard you would never hold anyone else to. When you make a mistake, you don't just feel bad about it. You feel like evidence of something, proof of a flaw, confirmation that you should have known better. You are rigid with yourself, precise, demanding, not because you're a perfectionist by nature, because somewhere early, things were unfair. You were held responsible for things that weren't your fault. You were punished for being human. You were told you weren't good enough, often enough that you decided the only safe thing was to become impossible to criticize. The wound of injustice says, I must be perfect to be worthy. And so you spend your life achieving, performing, correcting, never quite resting, because resting means risking being found imperfect. You learned to disappear, not because you wanted to be invisible, because you had to be. Nobody hit you, nobody screamed, but nobody saw you either. Your needs went unnoticed, your feelings went unasked about. Your presence felt like something nobody particularly needed or particularly missed. And so you learned to take up as little space as possible, to not want too much, to not feel too loudly, to handle everything alone, because asking for help felt like interrupting something more important. The wound of neglect says, I don't matter enough to be seen. And so you spend your life being quietly excellent, hoping someone will finally notice without you having to ask. One of those landed differently. Maybe you felt it in your chest. Maybe you recognized a behavior you've never had a name for before. Maybe you thought, that's me, and immediately wanted to look away. That's your wound. And here's what I need you to know. This is not a flaw in your character. This is something that happened to you when you were too young to protect yourself. Your wound created a strategy, a way of moving through the world that kept you safe when safety wasn't guaranteed. That strategy made sense then. And now, knowing where it came from, you can start to ask, does this still serve me? Or am I still protecting myself from something that isn't here anymore? The wound doesn't define you, but it does explain so much of what you do and why. The clinging, the hiding, the control, the shame, the perfectionism, the disappearing. None of it is random. All of it is a response to something real that happened to someone real. You. Comment below which wound is yours. You don't have to explain, just say it. Because naming it is the first step toward not being ruled by it. We see you, the wound and everything it made you carry, and the person underneath, who was always worth more than what was done to them.